Securities offered through Kestra Investment Services, LLC. Kestra IS, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Kestra Advisory Services, LLC. Kestra AS, an affiliate of Kestra IS. Capital Advisory Group, Inc. is not affiliated with Kestra IS or Kestra AS. Neither Kestra IS nor Kestra AS provide legal or tax advice and are not certified public accounting firms.
You work hard for your money. For the next hour, you're going to learn how to keep what's yours. Capital Advisory Group presents Keep What's Yours. Here are Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Hello and welcome to the show, Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. I'm Josh Gilbert, sitting here with Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Hello, Jeff.
Hi. Happy Saturday, or the first Saturday of summer.
Yeah, well, technically.
Yeah.
Technically. I always say summer is when the pool's open.
Pool's open.
And the pool's open. Pool's been open for a month now.
Yep.
So technically, if you want to talk about the calendar, it is the first Saturday of the summer. But
That's right.
It's felt like summer.
It's official now, so it's been summer for a while.
Well, in that case, it'll be summer well into September.
Hopefully. That's right.
Is the pool still going to be open?
We try and make a shot for Halloween to see if we could keep it open, but the leaves get in the way.
Oh,
and then it usually gets closed way before that. Because somebody's got to go out there 2 times, 3 times a day and pick the leaves out of the pool, and that's not me.
Yeah. Hey, kids, bring your candy over here next to the pool.
Exactly.
We'll go through our candy while we're floating and shivering past all the leaves in the pool.
Heaters.
Hey, I like that. All right, I'll take my October 15th pool invite.
That's right.
Yeah, Thursday night football while floating around in the pool.
That's right.
All right, well, Jeff is here to talk taxes with us and talk the financial sector and give us the latest news. And we got a pretty good topic today that we'll get to in the second segment. The average 65-year-old retiring, what will they pay in healthcare costs?
Yes.
For the rest of their life. We'll get into that. A study has come out and put a number on it, and we can dip into that because who plans for their health care costs in retirement?
Most people don't. When we look at plans or someone puts a concept together, healthcare cost is not in it. It's like it's just magically going to be taken care of.
You think you hit 65 and Medicare will take over.
Well, 65 is a prime time to look at, say, hey, all my debts will be paid off, or at least you're shooting for that. All debts are paid off. You get to step into Medicare. So typically, if you were self-employed, there's a great decrease in cost, out-of-pocket cost. But if you were an employee, and they paid for your health care, it's nothing really to you. But nobody could ever deny you for Medicare, so from a health standpoint. So,
but even though you're getting that Medicare, there are still costs associated.
There's still, and that's what we're looking at is assuming you're averagely healthy. Mm-hmm. If you run into issues, it could get a lot worse.
Assuming maybe you live 10 to 15, 20 years longer.
Exactly.
Past 65. My grandma passed away at, I believe she was 94.
Yep.
So I need to make a plan.
That's right.
I need to make a long-term longevity plan. My wife's grandfather passed away at 98.
Eeks.
So, yeah, we're going to be around for a while.
Hey, in younger generations, the longevity is going to be even more. With medical technology today versus 30 years ago.
I saw this article, headline. I didn't read it, but they said, will the first 150-year-old be born this year?
It's very possible.
We'll see. I wonder how old Finn's going to be when he gets up to that age.
So here's a question for you for Finn, because I talked about this with my granddaughter. Do you think Finn will ever drive a vehicle? Or do
Interesting.
Do you think that they will all be self-driven? You figure he's what, 2?
He's 2.5 now.
Yeah. So 16. Look at the advances today.
Got 13, 14 years left. Yeah. Will all the cars be
self-driven?
Man.
And you go, ooh, that's kind of a wild concept.
It's like, that classic car. We do that classic car show on Sundays.
Well, those won't be self-driven, no.
Yeah. We got that classic car, but help me find a gas station.
That might be their issue. Yeah.
Help me find a gas station to put. Oh, no, we converted it to electric.
Yeah, it's electric.
That's a great question. And things that, look, maybe you don't need to incorporate self-driving cars into your retirement plan.
Exactly.
But you do need to think about how much is healthcare going to cost me? How long am I going to live?
Exactly.
You know, not only just for healthcare costs, but to make your retirement stretch.
Exactly.
I mean, if I live to be 95, Jeff, you know, you're going to have to do the math on that and tell me, Josh.
So our software, which is funny, actually tags age 95 for everybody within the plan. And it doesn't say anything. It just tags it and puts this bright little line there. And what that means is everybody dies at 95.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you go, well, maybe, but maybe not.
Yeah. I'm going to be talking to you. You're going to be 120, and I'm going to hit 96, and you're going to say, Josh,
Yeah, you got to work 4 more years.
you got to go back to work. You ran out of money. But working with Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group, working with Jeff ensures that I won't
Exactly.
ever run out of money.
Spend the last dollar on the day that you die. That's the game.
Yeah. If only we knew what day that was going to be.
Exactly.
Frankly, I don't know if I want to know.
No, I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. You mark it on the calendar.
That's right.
Honey, I'm going to live longer than you.
Exactly.
So that's the game, and hopefully whatever's left over will get passed down to my son.
And that's the other side of the equation is
Who
to
can
leave.
count his inheritance while he's riding
That's
in a
right.
self-driving
That's right.
car.
Doesn't have to worry about it. Just gets in, tells it where to go.
Yeah, it tells it where to go and starts counting
It's
all
like
my
a
money.
George Jetson thing.
All right. What is the Federal Reserve doing these days?
All right. So our friends at the Federal Reserve passed on raising rates 2 weeks ago.
Okay. That's new, right?
That's newer. This is the first time that I don't want to say pause because it's not really a pause.
And are they meeting every quarter?
Yes.
Are we getting rate increases every quarter?
Bi-monthly is what they're actually meeting. And then there's different times.
Bi-monthly means once every 2 months, but it also means twice a month.
Technically, yes.
The most confusing thing ever.
Yes. So what they did was, I don't want to say pause because it's not the right verbiage that they actually put in their reports, but they just held tight. They didn't do anything, which is funny because then this last week, I believe it was either Tuesday or Wednesday, there was another Fed meeting, and they basically said they're going to have to raise rates 2 more times, or they believe they're going to raise rates 2 more times this year. In their next couple of meetings.
So they sat tight.
Yeah.
But they also said, but we're going to raise them again later.
Yeah, but we're going to raise them
this time.
more than likely 2 more times this year. Now, here's an interesting thing to think through. Next year, 2024, is an election year.
Mm-hmm.
So the Federal Reserve is not supposed to, I guess, if the right verbiage is tinker with interest rates, either decreasing or increasing interest rates in an election year. And it's kind of
it's
an unwritten
rule.
just because they don't want to sway it one way or the other. So if they came along and raised rates 5 more times between now and November of 24, that would possibly
the sitting president probably
would
mad. Take a hit.
He'd be very mad.
Yeah.
And then the flip side goes into play too. If they decrease interest rates and hypothetically spark the economy and get the wheels in motion and everybody goes back to work and starts making money.
You're giving the sitting president an unfair advantage.
So you go, but they have a job to do, which is, I say this nicely, manipulate the economy.
Right.
So what's going to take place in 2024?
You can't just put everything on pause just because it's an election year.
Yeah. They still have to do something. So that's the question.
Frankly, I hate to say it, but election year? More like election years?
Well, years.
Are we ever not in an election period?
It seems like it used to be just an election year, and now it's, they're already talking, 2024, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I think like 6 more people jumped into the race this week alone. So
crowded arena.
So they're sitting tight for now.
Yes.
But to anticipate that next year is an election year,
they may adjust 2 more times at the end of this year. So
because they know they won't be able to. Next year.
Hypothetically, they shouldn't, and I say that. But if something happens in the economy like bad data, good data, excessively good data, which we hope, maybe that will spark them just to get in and maybe do a 1/4 point mid-year and then call it a day.
Is the rate manipulation working?
Well, so far from their statistics, it is. So, but you got to look at this, what's called the Fed funds rate. That is what the Federal Reserve is doing. That's what banks loan money to each other overnight, is 507 as we sit. That's Friday's number.
507%.
507%.
Okay.
12 months ago to the day, it was 1.58.
Oh my gosh!
So it's basically tripled
in the last
12 months.
That's all it's been in the last year.
Yeah.
This
So-
whole thing with the interest rates has just been within the last year.
Yeah. 18 months.
Wow, time has flown.
Time's flown. Believe me. So they raised rates 8 times in the last 18 months,
Yeah.
basically. So now what that does is it causes prime rate. So prime rate is just a stated number out there. Typically, if you walked in and said, I want to borrow money for a car, and you have average credit, nothing fancy, they're going to quote you 8.25. That's prime rate.
Prime rate. That's
So-
where it is today.
Yeah.
8.25.
Prime sitting at 8.25. Now,
Woof.
if you're buying a house, the house rates are dependent upon bond rates, and it gets a little tricky. They're a little bit lower than that. But typically, like a line of credit would be prime plus something. So it'd be prime plus 2. So you could effectively have a rate out there at 10.25%, which would be prime plus 2% on top of that.
That's a lot for someone my age.
It's a bunch. And
who's
so
not used to this.
And the funny part is anybody probably under 35 or 40 has never seen rates this high.
Never.
In their lifetime. Because after 08, basically they went to zero. They technically went negative, but you can't put that in writing. So it's just zero.
Bank pays me to borrow money.
Be nice, but and then here within the last 18 months, they've skyrocketed. So if the Fed raises rates 2 more times, that means, and we'll say they do quarter points, you're now talking 5.57. That puts prime at 8.75 or 9-ish, and that could actually start to slow the economy down because people aren't going to borrow money. You can't. I mean, it's nuts.
Right. That's what we've been talking about, and it boggles my mind, Jeff. And I never took macroeconomics. I never took micro.
Yeah.
I just never took economics. Never had to in college. And the economy is cooking. People are buying stuff.
Exactly.
This is great.
Exactly. It's still.
Except.
But what they don't want to do. So if you look at Japan in the 80s, if you remember that Japan was going to buy every
Boom.
U.S.
It was a
country.
boom.
Company.
Yeah, we were all buying Nintendos and Hondas.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, just their economy, you just never heard anything about them ever again. They just kind of like vanished. The problem is their economy overheated in the 80s, and they didn't know how to control it. So it skyrocketed through the roof. Where, and I say manipulation, I don't mean that, but it's jokingly, but it is manipulation of the economy, which means if the economy goes too far too fast, Fed raises rates, and they do some other stuff behind the scenes to actually just slow it down a bit, kind of put the brakes on.
Because if everybody's out buying stuff,
inflation
goes berserk,
Yes.
which is what we've
That's where
seen.
we are. And they were blaming it on.
We watched it.
They blamed it on supply chain issues. That was a small portion of it.
I haven't heard supply chain issues in a year.
No,
and
other
the
than-
prices are still skyrocketing.
Exactly. Listen to a podcast a week ago, and it was a gentleman, and he was explaining, saying that everything's going to be North America. So it'd be Canada, U.S., Mexico. It'd be manufactured typically Mexico, because they can put it on a train or they can put it on a truck and get it here. Whereas when COVID hit, all the main shipping channels were just stopped. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
So.
And remember when that boat got stuck in the Suez Canal?
Yeah. I think that was on purpose or accident.
Yeah. We need to slow down
Yeah.
the supply chain so we can jack the prices up.
Exactly.
I hate to say it, but we've talked about it before. Greedflation
is there.
It really seems like the companies have said, hey, we had to raise prices because of supply chain.
Yeah.
People didn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
They still had to buy paper towels. Let's leave the prices where they are. And
Yeah.
you know what? In fact, let's raise them
raise it-
another dollar.
raise it again,
See what
exactly.
happens.
Yeah.
People are still buying.
And
so
there's a pain point, though, and you're starting to see that in some products where people are backing off and they're not buying it. They may not do it as much as what they did in the past. I'll say fast food. I mean, go to my favorite place to get a burger. I won't say their name.
$20.
Yeah, for one person is nuts.
Yeah.
So that's that pain point where you're going, used to
The
go here
coffees
weekly.
are $7.
Used to go there weekly. Now I'll go there maybe every 3 weeks because of that cost. And that'll
to make
drive
my
you
burgers
away.
at home.
True, very true. But they still don't taste that good.
Yeah, I know. It's
So,
better. I know what place. I know what place you're talking about, right?
Yes.
And they got great fries there.
Yes, they do too.
But it's so expensive.
It's
and I told
crazy.
you I got a burrito from a place, and it was smaller than normal.
Yeah.
And it was almost $5 more than it used to be.
Yeah. So
and I can't imagine that supply chain is still an issue with them.
no, it's not. So here's inflation now for the month of May. So we won't get June's inflation until the 10th of July, around there. So inflation is 4%. And I'm listening to everybody laugh right now saying, you sure about that? That is what the U.S. government says, that our inflation is only 4%. The problem
That's
is
not what it feels like.
no. The problem is what it's, and the reason it's lower is oil costs have gone down a little bit. So gasoline has come down just a touch, and that adjusts it. But again, remember, it's X, food, and oil.
They don't count,
the
grocery store.
Yeah, the
which
grocery
is-
store, I don't think anything has gone down in price at all.
That's where I'm having the biggest
issue,
pain point.
yeah, is going to getting food that you use every day, multiple times a day, and the prices are still through the roof.
Yeah.
So I don't buy the. I mean, the actual official number is 4%. Remember, we were at 8.5, 8.7, I think was our highest, and we're at 4 today.
I saw a politician that they posted not the full receipt. They posted just a snapshot of part of their Costco receipt, and they spent $800 there. And they said, I only bought 50 items.
Yeah.
And thanks a lot, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And my question was, well, let's see the whole receipt.
Whole receipt, yeah.
Yeah,
Had
I'm curious.
50 bottles of alcohol on there.
Yeah, if you wanna make that point, we all know what it's like
Exactly.
grocery shopping these days. But if you're gonna make a point, let's see the
Show the
item.
whole receipt.
Let's see
Yep.
the whole thing. I'm curious what you spent $800 on at Costco. I think she said that she bought razors was one of the non-food items. You know how expensive razors are.
Yes.
Especially buying in bulk from guys. She probably bought 100 pack of razors.
Razors, yeah. Yep.
That's easily
Just don't
$200
don't
right
shave.
there.
That's how you fix that.
Yeah, don't shave. Yeah, but that's the thing. They got us over a barrel.
Yeah.
They jacked the price up on paper towels. You
paid it.
You vote with your feet.
Yep.
You kind of make a comment with your wallet. But what are we going to do? Not
Don't
have
have any
paper
choice.
towels? Not
Yeah.
have toilet paper?
Well, no, you need that. Most definitely. So.
Yeah, that should
Yeah,
be
so-
the most expensive.
Yes,
thing.
it should be. So that's where we sit today. So again, we'll kind of put this line in the sand right now. Or first day of summer, we'll see where we're at in the next 3 to 4 months. Because again, people talk soft landing versus hard landing, and that I'll say description is a little tricky. It just sounds convenient. Soft landing means economy, they thread the needle just perfectly and everything's fine going into next year. Hard landing means basically they crash the economy.
Oops.
And that's the question of the day. Because in the 80s, you got to remember, this is the one thing, since they paused this last go, in the 80s, I don't want to say pause, but they stopped raising rates and said, we got it under control. Everything is great. And then 9 months later, they went, oops, inflation's back.
Yeah.
And then that's when they started to really ratchet rates up. And that's where we came into the 13, 14% quickly. And not saying this is going to happen this go around, but if they pause, they're waiting for their data dependent. They're waiting for that data from the economy to come through. And then that's why they kind of hedged and said, well, we'll probably do it 2 more times.
If your only tool in your arsenal is raising interest rates,
Well,
and inflation comes back, you're already at 8%.
Exactly.
You're going to take it up to 14%.
Yeah.
I
mean, and it could happen easily. And again, happened in the 80s. And the guy that was running the Fed, Paul Volcker, was a really smart guy. And it snuck back in on them. And so they had to jack rates through the roof the second half of their rate hiking in the 80s just to get it under control. So,
All right. Well, inflation, according to the government, is
that's
at
right.
4%.
Only 4%.
But we know what it's actually like at the grocery store. I'm surprised that the economy hasn't cooled off because everyone spent all their money at the grocery store.
I think that's what the Fed is still scratching their head going, why isn't this slowing down?
Yeah.
And again, you could say stimulus money.
$800 trips to Costco.
Well, yeah, we'll slow you down quickly. But the stimulus, most of that stimulus money is already spent, if you really want to call it. There's a few states that are handing out little, I'll call it stipends, if you want to call it that. You get $400, $500 for being a resident, and boom, that's it.
Yeah.
So you can't blame it on that anymore because all that money's gone.
Yeah.
All
right,
yeah.
Well, let's go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll do our topic of the day. This is a good one. Average 65-year-old retiring, what will they pay in health care costs? And have you put this into your retirement plan?
Yes.
Have you budgeted for your health care costs? Medicare, it ain't all free.
No.
There's a lot of out-of-pocket stuff and a lot of stuff that they don't even cover that you're probably going to be using in retirement. It is Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall. The name of the book, Keep What's Yours. The name of the show, Keep What's Yours. The name of the game, try to keep more of your money in your pocket rather than going out to the federal government. And, Jeff, that is every 2 weeks when you get a paycheck.
Yes.
That is every year on April 15th when you pay your taxes. And that is in retirement.
Yes.
When you saved all that money up.
That's right.
And then you go to take it out, and the government comes with their handout saying, you owe us taxes.
You owe us more.
What have you done to ensure that you get to keep more of what's yours and less going to the federal government? You get a plan with Jeff going, and you can guarantee that you're going to keep more of what's yours and have less going out to the government. Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group, 636-394-5524 and CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. Have you planned for your health care in your retirement? We'll talk about it.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, back on the Big 550. Keep What's Yours, name of the game. Keep more of your money and less going to the federal government. Jeff can help you out with that, set you up with a plan. He's my tax guy. He does Heidi's taxes. He does my parents. I think Heidi's sister might be moving over. So the word's getting out. Have Jeff do your taxes. You can keep more of your money. And while you're with him, he's a wealth advisor as well. Have him set you up with a retirement plan so that you can address the taxes inside the retirement plan. Here's the deal that I always say. If you have a retirement plan where you are, is it pre-tax? Is that what they call them?
Most of them are pre-tax, and what they don't take into consideration is what are your taxes in retirement.
Yeah.
And there's two stages in that. The first stage is, let's say that, like we're going to talk about in a minute, you retire at 65. You take your Social Security, you take your little pension maybe, and everything's great and dandy. But guess what? Somewhere between 73 and, depending upon your age, possibly 75 now, your required minimum distribution shows up. That is where you're forced to take money out of an IRA that's been sitting there.
Whether you want to or not.
Yep. And it forces it out. What that is a tax time bomb. Tax time bomb because what you had going all through retirement was perfectly fine until this extra money gets dumped in, and poof, now you owe money on it.
And that's the thing. If you have a pre-taxed retirement plan, you've made a deal with yourself and the federal government.
They're your partner.
I'll pay those taxes later. Well, what's the plan for later?
The question is what are tax rates in the future? And you don't know. Common sense says they're probably going to go up.
And when I'm 30, 40, and 50, I just keep socking money away.
Yep,
But at some point, I need to.
So the concept is, and this is the simple math of it, and it usually doesn't work that way. If you're working and you're at a 24% tax bracket, put money away. Because the theory would be you will retire and you will fall to a 12% tax bracket when you retire, hypothetically.
That's the theory.
And then when you take it out, you just saved basically 50% on that money. Because you were putting it away at 24, you're taking it out at 12. Again, then there could be windfalls that kick in at a later date, and that pushes you over the threshold. And then the funny part is there's a few where we see where their tax rate goes up because of the income that's coming in the door. So that is the name of the game, is tax bracket bingo. Yes.
And
plot it off and keep below 1 or 2 or whatever the game is that you're playing. And again, you also have to remember when we talk about Medicare, depending upon your filing status and depending upon your income level, the average person pays $182 a month as the norm. But if you're somewhat successful, they will actually increase those premiums on you. So when you file your tax return, it goes to the IRS. That data is then pushed to Social Security. Social Security and Medicare sees that, hey, you're higher than this threshold, and then they raise your premiums. And there's a little delay in that by the time that it goes full circle.
Yeah.
So
Nothing's ever free.
nothing.
And that's the thing. Do you know how to play tax bracket bingo?
Yes.
I don't. Jeff does. And if you do a pre-tax account and you say, look, we'll just see what happens when I turn 72, and theoretically I'll be in a lower tax bracket, and we'll just see how this plays out. You are almost guaranteed to be paying more taxes than what you have to.
Pretty much. Yeah.
If you're not playing the game, you're giving the government extra money. And frankly, in retirement, you need everything.
Every penny.
That you can have, unless you want to, go back to work at 96 like I'm going to have to.
98, come on.
Are you planning for your taxes in retirement? That's the question that we always ask every week. But are you planning for your health care costs
Yes.
in your retirement? And for the most part, Jeff, you see people every day. For the most part, they're not.
They don't. It's like, it's not there, and we're like, yeah, put it in your budget. Might be an issue. Because again, today, maybe your employer is taking care of 90% of your cost.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is it'll be dumped in your lap at 65. It's your problem. So you got to pay. It's nominal premium that you pay to Medicare. So Part A is free. You pay for Part B, and typically $2,000, $2,100, I believe, is the average cost. But if you want supplements that go on the back side of that, it's alphabet soup as you go forward. There are people that we refer to that do that on a daily basis. We don't. But this is the concept that we got to build into the plan. So this is a report from Fidelity, just 2-3 weeks old. And what it's saying is that a 65-year-old single person that retires this year can expect to spend $157,500 on health care and medical expenses throughout retirement.
If you are 65 and you retire this year and you're single, you can expect to spend $157,000 in retirement.
On health care. And that's if you're moderately average. I
On
don't know
the
what you
healthcare.
call that, healthy, if
Right.
you want to call it. I don't want to call it healthy, but
just a normal
just
person.
average. If
Yeah.
you have, unfortunately, if you stumble into some issues, it's going to go up because you're going to pay more. So, and then if you are a 65-year-old couple and you're retiring this year, you can expect to spend about $315,000 in retirement.
Do they tell you your life expectancy in that number?
No, they're just doing the average. So
Average,
there's a
okay.
couple of different life expectancy calcs that are out there.
I mean, hopefully you live another 10, 12, 15, 20 years.
Hopefully 20-ish.
30
I mean,
years.
65, 75, 85-ish.
Yeah.
I believe female, don't quote me on these numbers, depending upon what table you're using. They're called ISO tables that the insurance companies use. I believe a female's 84 is the average. I think a male's 82, something like that, somewhere in that range. But again, that's 20 years of retirement. I mean, the funny part is our software will project out to age 95. And again, it doesn't say, hey, you just died. It just puts a little tag in there at 95.
And they're just kind of like, well,
And
we're
they're
gonna
like-
we're gonna do the math up
Yeah.
until here.
What's that mean? Most people, when they look at it, they're like, well, what's that little asterisk mean? I go, well, you just passed away.
Well, I hate to break it to
Yeah.
you. Everyone's going to have
Yes.
it at some point. But when I think of Medicare, I've got it circled on the calendar right now. The day,
That's right.
the day I turn 65, boom, free health care.
Beautiful, beautiful thing, especially being self-employed. Healthcare cost is just utterly ridiculous on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
what it costs. And you go, man, I could go to $181 a month. I'd take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but nothing is ever free.
Nothing.
So what is this $315,000 for me and my
So-
wife?
so that
what is
is-
that going towards?
So what it's doing is it's actually stepping in there and it's saying, hey, other healthcare related, you got to go to the chiropractor, you got to go, wherever. Over-the-counter medicines are not in there. So if you're buying, some
Right.
non-prescription, but something
I
that
take
you
an aspirin every day,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I have allergies.
dental services are not in there.
Not included.
And long-term care is not in there. So it could be higher than that. Like I said, if you're very healthy, you might skid right under that number. But if you're moderately, got issues, you could have a huge bill.
Medicare payments, deductibles, prescriptions, out-of-pockets. These are all things that get rolled into it. Before you know it, you're paying a lot more in your healthcare costs, and you never budgeted for it. So what is the tip? What do we do? How do we, I'm 40 something.
Well, the key to it is when you start to budget into your income in retirement, this is part of that equation. So yes, you typically your Medicare is taken from your Social Security payment if you draw Social Security. If not, they bill you and you write a check for it.
Sure.
But let's say that you get out there, that's what you have to build into to the side as a cushion to say, hey, I got $315,000 sitting to the side that is for future medical expenses, or $157,000 for future medical expenses. So,
and is that we talk all the time about health savings plans. We talk about for Fin School we have that savings plan that we use tax beneficial savings plans. Is there something that we can sock away money into now?
Well,
that would be tax beneficial that could go to pay for health care later.
Yeah. So the concept today is an HSA, health savings account. Look at it as a retirement/health care scenario. Now, the downside to it is that if you have an HSA and before you can you pay two premiums, if you want to call it that. So say you put $100 a month into it, whether it's through your paycheck or you're paying it on your own. $55 goes as healthcare premiums. The other $45 goes to your little bank account, and you build up this massive wealth. Now, again, if you get really sick and you got to get into it, that's what it's there for, but you deplete your capital. So let's say that you're perfectly healthy all through your working years. 65, you retire, and you got $150,000 sitting in that HSA. The theory to it is you don't roll it. The old school used to roll it to IRAs. Can't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. You leave it. You can use that to pay your Medicare premiums and out-of-pocket expenses as you go into retirement.
As I take money out of my retirement account, we talked about the taxes, the tax bomb. Mm-hmm. I'm playing tax bracket bingo. Yeah. I take some money out for the boat. I pay taxes on that money. It's the game. Yeah. I've signed up for this game, and with your help, you're helping me get the best bang for my buck when it comes to paying my taxes in retirement. What about these medical savings accounts, the health savings accounts?
So if it's used for medical expenses, it's not taxable.
So I can sock money away.
Take a deduction.
If I take money out for the boat, then I got to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
But if I take money out to pay for health care costs,
exactly, it's not taxable. You get a little 1099, but it's literally when you go through the codes, it's got a box checked, and then on the tax return it says, "Hey, was this used for medical expenses?" And you click yes.
So hopefully in retirement, my tax bracket is what, 12%?
Hopefully.
But even if it's 20, 24, 30%, hopefully I'm doing really well.
Yeah.
I can take money out and pay medical costs and not get dinged 20, 30.
Exactly.
12%.
So the problem
taxes.
The problem with it is with an HSA, it comes with the
tax-free savings account.
Now the bad side to this is it comes with a high deductible plan. Mm-hmm. So you may have a $10,000 deductible. So the first $10,000 is your problem. And then beyond that, you do a co-insurance, and it depends upon your plan. So that's what a lot of people panic on when they look at that, and they're like, wow, that's crazy. But that's where the healthcare industry is going, is more, I'll say they're sharing the cost more with the consumer as you go forward. So again, if you could start an HSA today and you have 20 years to retire, you could pack some money into this thing, take a tax deduction for it. Because what a lot of people don't realize is, let's say you have an HSA and your employer puts $1,000 in it for you. It shows on your W-2, and you take that as a small deduction as you go forward. But you could do up to, I believe it's $7,800 single and $8,500 married filing jointly is the max deduction you can take. But we see a lot of people miss that to max the thing out on an annual basis. So when we're doing the return and we see that they have an HSA but they only put $1,000 in, even if it's February of the year, you could cut a check back for the previous year and get a deduction.
And this is all, every week I run into the same issue with you, Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor with Capital Advisory Group. you give us these great ideas, and if we come in to do taxes, I think it's so laughable now how ignorant I was. Taxes is not April 15th.
No.
Taxes is all the time.
Year. Unfortunately, it's all year.
And I feel like I've become a bit jaded saying everything's about taxes these days, because it kind of is. It kind of is.
If you look at everything that you do, from going to the store, paying a sales tax, to paying your Verizon bill or your T-Mobile or whoever, look at the taxes that you're paying on it. Everything's got taxes.
But there are little things in the tax code that for some reason they decided to actually throw us a bone.
Yeah.
And we can utilize these things. But here's my major point. You give us a lot of really great ideas and talk about health savings accounts and how to pay your medical expenses in retirement using a tax-free account. But I don't know how to implement it into my actual life.
That's what we do. We help you implement it and say, here's the pitfalls. This is what it might cost you. You know, you got to watch out if you start an HSA. If you start one and you get sick in the first year, maybe 2 years, you're going to have to figure out how you feed the monster in a sense to pay the doctors, because you got a $10,000 deductible. But past that, you're home free.
If I walked into Mr. Dorsey's office, he's the boss, and I said, hello, Mr. Dorsey, I would like to do one of these health savings accounts because I'm thinking of my future. Can you take some money out of my paycheck? And he's going to look at me like I'm an idiot and he's going to say, get out of my office.
No, he'll say, I have no idea. Talk to HR. And if you guys have it offered through the plan, then you could do it.
Right.
So, but if you don't, then you'd have to be, whatever your employer, if you're a W-2 employee, whatever your employer offers you is kind of the option. And a lot of times nobody worries about it because, and no offense to the HR people out there, it's too hard to try to explain this to people, and they just go, hey, you could have this plan and it's got a $10 copay, thanks, have a nice day. Boom, they're done, and they go that way.
Yeah.
The HSAs, the backside of it, are the down-the-road perks are way better than today.
Yeah. And so, you can actually, Jeff Zufall, you're my tax guy, you're my wealth advisor. I can get you on the phone with my HR department
to say, hey, what's our offering? What can you do, or what do you want? What do you offer to the clients? We can figure out the angles, see if it works for you. If it does, great, we do it. If it doesn't, walk away from it.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. I don't know how to actually do this.
Yeah.
On my paycheck every 2 weeks, how to implement it with my HR department.
Or we see somebody that they make the right step. They start the HSA, the actual insurance side of it, but then they never fund the actual HSA.
Whoops.
So you got the plan, you got the right concept. It's just not funded properly to get the tax deduction.
That's where Jeff comes in. Senior tax strategist and wealth advisor with Capital Advisory Group. Here's the number again, 636-394-5524. A lot of great ideas, a lot of great concepts in retirement. If you're single, expect to pay $157,000 in healthcare costs. If you're a couple, $315,000. Have you earmarked that and budgeted for that? Probably not, because you say, oh, Medicare, that's free.
Yeah, it's free.
I'm in the clear.
Yeah.
Not so fast. And how can we budget for that in a tax-conscious, tax-beneficial to us way?
Yes.
Because everything that we do, just doing the show right now, the IRS is like, how can we tax them?
Oh, they figured it out, believe me.
Well, yeah, you probably are paying for it. So everything has to do with taxes. You need someone in your corner. Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Advisor. CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com, and the number again, 636-394-5524. Have you budgeted or even thought about your health care costs in retirement? Jeff can help you out with that. 636-394-5524. We'll go to commercial break and wrap this show up this week. Keep What's Yours with Jeff Zufall.
Keep What's Yours continues with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall.
Back on the show, Keep What's Yours, Jeff Zufall, 636-394-5524, Capital Advisory Group, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. And Jeff, we've just got a couple minutes left, but the GOP House plan for our taxes has come out. And this is not necessarily something that's going to get passed.
They're saying it probably won't make it just because of the non-bipartisan going out there. But here's where they're at. This is what the Republicans have thrown out there.
Here are their ideas.
Yep. And now
Take them or leave them.
You got to remember, all of Trump's tax cuts expire in 2025. So whoever wins the election in 24 resets all tax law.
So they will sunset, and then in 2025, whoever's in
charge gets to go in there and start plugging away. And we revert back to 2018, 2017 tax laws. So there'll be some major changes. But so this is what they've put out there. So the Republicans want to increase your standard deductions. So in today's world right now, if you're married filing jointly, you get $27,700. That's the 2023 standard deduction. They want to increase it by $4,000 for a couple, and they want to increase it by $2,000 for singles, and $3,000 for what's called a head of household. And there's going to be an income gap in there. And I say income gap, it's just saying upper incomes won't get this step up. They don't say where, but somehow the magic number that everybody uses is 417 of income and above. So we'll see where it's at.
So currently there are no deductions for anybody.
Well, no. So this is standard deduction. So everybody gets 20. If you're married filing jointly, you get $27,700. First $27,700 you make, you don't pay tax on.
All right.
And if you're single, it's $13,850. Head of household is $20,800. So they're going to add $4,000. How was that? $4,000, $2,000, or $3,000 to those numbers, which is kind of cool. It just perks it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The 1099K reporting issue. Technically, they just stalled it for this year, but it's still out there and it's still hiding in the corner. And that says anything over $600 gets pushed back out, and they report a 1099K. So if your kid's in college and you pay them through PayPal a couple $100 or $1,000 a week, you get a 1099, and you got to make it go away on your tax return, which is an issue. So,
but if you sell stuff online, it's over $600,
exactly, you prove basis and all that, So I mean, there's still workarounds, but the Republicans want to go back to the 200 transactions, or if you're paid over $20,000, is what the 1099 originally was, 1099K. So they're on board for that guy. And then there's some business stuff, but one of the big ones in here is the SALT cap. So it's state and local taxes that you pay. So you're capped currently everybody's capped at $10,000 straight across the board. So your real estate taxes today are your state taxes that you pay. You used to get a deduction, full deduction for them. You don't anymore. It's capped at $10,000. So if you got a big house, you might pay more than $10,000 in real estate tax a year. So boom, you're done at 10.
Mm-hmm.
This was designed East Coast, West Coast. If you have a house in L.A., it could be a little bitty house, and you pay $25,000 a year in real estate tax. You only get 10 of it. So now everybody was like, "Oh, that's a Trump bill," blah blah blah. But the Democrats have never adjusted it.
Right.
So it's kind of stayed in the tax law. So now what they're actually saying is they want to increase that cap, but they haven't said to what. And then the other thing in this kind of researching some stuff, we stumbled on to that most states now offer this workaround on your SALT cap. So if you own a business, a pass-through business, and you elect to pay your state tax through your entity, the $10,000 cap doesn't apply because you get to take that deduction through the company.
Ah, interesting.
So there's some weird stuff we looked at that you could trip into a couple little landmines in there if you're not careful. But anybody that has in state of Missouri and state of Illinois are on the list. They've approved it and given their blessing on it. So this is something, if you're a small business owner and you have a pass-through, which is S-corps, LLCs, sole proprietors, etc., anything that passes through to your personal return, this is something that needs to be addressed this year, because if you try to write it off on a Schedule A, you're capped at $10,000. So again, if you're a high state tax due, it didn't sound right, but if you pay a lot of state tax, it may not work for you because you won't get the full bang for your buck. But again, that is something this is brand spanking new that a lot of the states have jumped into.
And this is why you need a tax guy. Jeff Zufall, senior tax strategist and wealth advisor with Capital Advisory Group. There's some workarounds out there. And this is not just on SALT and state and local taxes. This is on everything.
Yeah.
There's workarounds out there. There are things that you don't even know about. There are FSAs and HSAs that you can open that can help you keep more of your money. I'm saving $1,200 every year just doing that for our son's schooling. And that's stuff that Jeff can help you find, and it's all legal.
Completely legal.
Jeff's not going to do something illegal for you because
No, I like my license.
he could lose his license and go to jail. You know, he's not going to do that for you.
Exactly.
You're not worth it. But he can find you the legal stuff in there that you can do. And just like he said just now, with the state and local taxes, they found a workaround that there are landmines in there.
There are. You got to be careful. There's a few that step through. But remember back when they did this, everybody tried to do a charitable contribution through a gift scenario, and the IRS came back and said, no, doesn't work that way. So this is the only way that works that IRS has given their blessing
Given
on.
their blessing to.
Yeah.
So if the IRS gives their blessing to it,
Use
go
it.
out and use it and take advantage of it. Keep more of what's yours. 636-394-5524. Jeff Zufall, Capital Advisory Group, CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com. He's my tax guy. He's my wealth advisor. He's working with my parents, Heidi's parents. He works with Heidi now. The word's getting out, 636-394-5524. Jeff, thanks so much.
You betcha. Thank you. See you next week.
See ya.
You've been listening to Keep What's Yours with Josh Gilbert and Jeff Zufall, Senior Tax Strategist and Wealth Manager at Capital Advisory Group. To learn more, call 636-394-5524 or visit CapitalAdvisoryGrp.com.